Because the problem with women in social media is really not the media itself, it's what we choose to consume. Right. So for men, a lot of times they consume content that is about leveling up to some extent, how to get more money, how to look better, how to attract more women, whatever, whatever. For women, oftentimes it is just content that validates you're perfect the way that you are. Everything about women is great. You don't have to change for any man. You can just keep being yourself and somebody is going to come into your life and fall in love with you just as you are. That's the issue, because then we're not growing.
So my thoughts went in two separate directions when I was watching this video, and I looked in the comments and I was really glad to see both kind of perspectives being expressed. The first one was this comment. It said, I've been a therapist and working in the industry for over 10 years. I can confirm this is 100% true. With women being the highest consumers of voluntary mental health services, you will see very often where women patients will jump from therapist to therapist, not because the therapist is bad, but the therapist will not validate poor behaviors, inaction, or negligence. My colleagues, other female therapists, and I have done multiple in-service about not allowing patients to jump therapist to therapist without actual cause, because them running from actual life-changing feedback is not helping them.
That is absolutely true. And then the women that I do know that are in therapy, it's funny because they'll come to me and they'll tell me about certain things. And they say, you're 10 times better than my therapist. I'm like, yeah, because I'm 10 times more direct than your therapist, right? That's what I'm thinking. So I'm like, well, what do you and your therapist talk about? And she said, basically, my therapist she's more surprised at whatever I'm saying to her. Like if I say, oh, this, that, and third happened. Oh my God, really? How about this, that, and the third? I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. She's more surprised. So when she leaves out of therapy, yeah, you feel more affirmed when you leave out of there, but you don't feel like you made progress. You don't feel like you're moving forward. She pays a lot of money to these people because she has a good amount of money. So it's like you're spending all this money only for you to be affirmed. And then that's how the therapists milk all the women, because you're just being affirmed all day. Opposed when you come to me, I'm going to say, well, that don't make sense. And I'll say, well, that's stupid. Why did that happen? Why would you do that? Then I'll ask them a question to make them think out loud. And I'm like, what did you gather from that? Like, well, that don't sound right now. And I say, yeah. So you start thinking, you start to understand things and understand how you got somewhere by somebody calling out bad actions, whether it's you or any of the decisions that, that you've made, or having people around you that make bad decisions consistently. The answers are never really that hard.
And then under it, it said, I'm a therapist too. I much prefer working with men. Men tend to be more proactive with their issues. I can be direct with a man and they can achieve in one session what it will take a woman 3 to 4 sessions, because you have to dance around it with them until the proverbial penny drops. And then the second perspective was, women have been told how to look, how to dress, how to behave, what shape their bodies should be, how to get a man, how to please a man, how to be a mother, how to have it all, how, our whole lives. The validation culture arose from generations of being boxed in and told that unless we were a specific thing at a specific time, we were lesser. And the comment under that said, women aren't told how to look/dress. They simply must do these things well enough if they want to be considered attractive enough when compared to their peers. The reality is that dating is competitive. Meanwhile, men not only have to worry about their looks, but plenty of other things like status, wealth, height, and masculinity. You could use a perspective change, considering that these days basically goes on to say like how many other things that men need to consider them attractive.
Everything that she said in the first part, it is true that women have been told how to look, how to dress, how to behave, X, Y, and Z, which is true, right? And we can't take that away from them. However, if you ask somebody what is the bare minimum, then I think all of those things would have to be the bare minimum on how you should look. You should look decent. How you should dress modest if you want a man to actually take you seriously. That makes sense, right? If you're a man and you want a woman that likes masculine men, right? And you like this type of woman, you can't go outside with assless chaps, right? You can't go outside, looking like you play for the other team and then want specific women that like masculine men. It just doesn't make sense. So how you dress and how you present yourself means something. That's not to women, that's to everyone. And if we're talking about certain beauty standards, that's not even the men that actually care, right? The women set those beauty standards, not the men. Because all these women wear weaves, makeup, BBLs, all that stuff like that. If you ask the average man, do he like that? And would he prefer that? He's going to say a profound no. I prefer she not have all of that. But the women say, well, you go and you go get the girls with the BBL. And you see guys looking at them on Instagram with the big butt. 100% true. It's the difference between something you want to play with and something you want to stay with. That's one. Number two, when they look at that, they only look at the men with money. Here is the caveat with men with money. Men with money are chased by women. The women that end up chasing those guys are the women with the BBLs, their body done, their lips done. So you think this is the archetype that these men like. No, these men effortlessly get women. And if you can effortlessly get somebody like they're coming to you, you'll just accept whatever you get. The women that tend to spend money on their body, their lips, or whatever it is, don't want that money to go to waste. So therefore, they chase those men and the men just accept. So it's not that the men prefer these women and this is what they want. It's just that those are the women that end up chasing them. So those are the women they say okay to, right? So if 100 different BBL women that, you know, that look decent, as cute, or whatever it is, come to me, and then there's 20 other girls that I can see over there, even if I keep those girls, those not going to be the girls that's going to be in the pictures and stuff with me. Because the girls that's in the pictures and stuff with me are going to make sure they're in the pictures. They're going to make sure they're seen because those women don't want their money to go to waste. It's not that that's what I want. That's why those men have tons of them. And then when you look at their wives or anything like that, plain Janes for sure.
So what is my personal opinion on both of these comments? Well, I think they both hold equal merit. I will say when it comes to the therapy conversation, I can totally see that there are probably a lot of men who go into therapy very solution oriented, whereas there's probably a lot more women who just kind of want to talk out their feelings first, and maybe some of them want to get validated on their emotions.
Fun fact, the therapy, you know, when they lay on the couch and, you know, they talk, the therapists sit there and talk, like psychologist, therapist, whatever it is. Then they sit on the couch and the person talk out their feelings. That was made for women. Fun fact.
I will say, though, that I do think there are a lot of men who buck against therapy in the first place. So I don't know if this might be kind of a bit biased because there's just a lot less men who are willing to go to therapy in the first place because they don't want to go to therapy and be told all of the things that they do wrong because they're also not used to having the space to express their emotions. And so maybe they don't really feel like they would even be able to do that in therapy. So
that's wrong. And that's 100% counterintuitive. Everything she just said was just absolutely wrong because it's going to it's contradicting what she first said. So if therapy is the type of place where you just get affirmed and they're not giving you a solution-based problem, then why would you go as a man if you want a solution-based problem? I don't want to sit there and talk about the feelings of whatever I'm thinking about. I don't care about that. I care about the solution. And if you cannot give me a solution and I'm going to have to figure this shit out by myself, then I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to figure it out by myself. And that's what the guys do. That's the reason why guys don't really go to therapy and we don't care about it. It's not because we don't want somebody telling us what we're doing wrong. We hear that all day. A guy, you'll know. Society will slap you in the face if you do something wrong or if you're not good enough. You'll know. You don't need to be affirmed by nobody else. If you can't get a woman, if you're ugly, you'll know. An ugly woman can still get men. Fat woman, no matter how she looks, she can still get men, you know, in droves. Ugly man, that's completely ugly. You better have something. And if you don't have something, nobody's coming. So you know. I don't need to go to therapy to say like, this dude, you're ugly. You need to change something. I know already, right? If you think you don't got no money, you know already. So going to therapy for somebody to tell me like, yeah, this is your problem. Like, duh. That's the reason. That's not the reason why we go, right? So that's the reason why men typically don't go because, yeah, it doesn't make any sense for a man.
can just see the different genders having different motivations because of socialization in the first place. And then to the second comment, I do think that the woman had a valid point. You used to see in magazines and pretty much everywhere in society that we told women how to look, how to, please their boyfriend, how to be skinnier, how to be more attractive. And this still happens. You have YouTube videos, you have TikToks, how to be more attractive. I do think that men are starting to feel that pressure a lot more, especially with dating apps. And I don't know if I would say that it's like fully switching where I do still think that women have strict beauty standards put on us, but I do acknowledge that the beauty standards for men are rising a lot because there are less opportunities to meet people in the wild. There are less third spaces and everything is becoming more expensive. People are working and most people are meeting from dating apps nowadays when it comes to dating. It's sort of kind of gatekeeping a lot of people who might not be the most aesthetically attractive to where now it's just becoming a whole lot more important than it was in the past, at least for men. But I do think it might be becoming a bit of an overcorrection because I do notice that it is very hard to even like gently say anything that could make a woman feel like she might have to be held accountable for something, or even when people have their preferences. A lot of people can't even state their preferences if it doesn't align with, what a specific woman wants to hear. It's very common on social media now that everyone kind of gets praised for calling men super ugly or inadequate or pointing out all of their flaws or faults. But then anytime that somebody might even say, hey, this is what I find attractive in a woman, even if it is in a very respectful way, you will get kind of bombarded with a lot of hate from both men and women. And it does make sense because historically women were so judged and shamed for their looks. So I think that a lot of women feel like, well, now it's our turn. And I do understand that mentality. I do understand it, but I just think, like she said later in the video, that unless you're willing to acknowledge your flaws or faults or things that you might not always do right, unless you're willing to acknowledge that people can have preferences and that you might not be their preference, people can also have different opinions than you and you might not always like their opinions, because I have noticed a lot of women, instead of beating each other up or whatever, they kind of go the route of trying to bully, trying to ostracize, spread rumors, gossip, make a TikTok video. And I also think, if we're being honest, that a lot of the women who say that they're girls, they're girls until somebody says something that they don't like. And then
There we go. See, women, people, this is the problem that I have with people when they speak on women. Women are not fools. They speak like, oh, they're fools. They don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. Women are actually very smart. So if you think you're getting over on them, you're really not. Right? They're dumbing themselves down. Let's put it like that. Because they understand that when it comes to these beauty standards, one, that's not set by men, that's set by other women, right? Because it's called a competition. Like, you don't just get to just win just because you exist. So when somebody say, well, you have to stay slim, right? Because men like slim women. Sure. Right? This doesn't mean big women don't get men, but if men in mass like slim women and there are more slim women, and you want to be the big one, then you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. You're not going to get exactly what you want. In other words, anytime they try to tell these women they have to do something in order to get something, that's where she's saying that these women are feeling offended. Because everything she said, oh, women had the beauty standards, women had to do these things. Yeah, because it's a competition and everybody has to do something. And I don't know what's harder, getting a lot of money to take care of a family or not eating that much. I think it's pretty simple.